Hi, my name is Megan Bouchel, and I am a global studies major with an emphasis in immigration, migration, and identity. I am a Chicano studies minor and a leadership minor at the U. And this past May term, I had the opportunity to go to the US Mexico border for Spanish 3401 with Catalina Gainley. And I would highly recommend it to anyone. And the whole experience was just absolutely life changing and so incredibly moving and informative. If I had to pick a single memorable moment from it, it's incredibly difficult. But what I want to talk about today is the prayer vigil that we did in our seventh day. Uh, we were in Douglas, Arizona, so that's located right on the US Mexico border. And I had incredibly low expectations of the prayer vigil, but that was just my personal concern and worries, just because that's not a huge thing in my practice. But it was absolutely just phenomenal. The pastor in the church was really respectful of everyone's religious beliefs. And how it started off is we met with this church group and the pastor, and he had a whole shopping cart full of crucifixes. And all the crucifixes had names on them of people who had perished in just the Douglas area trying to cross the border. And there were about like 250 crucifixes, and it was just 250 just in that area. And those are just, of course, people who have been found in the desert, or people's remains who have been found in the desert. And there's probably hundreds of more that are still missing. But of course, in addition to the crucifixes with names on them, there were also some that said no identificado, no identificada, of people who still have not been identified. So how this prayer vigil worked is we started quite a few blocks away from the actual border, and we opened up with a prayer vigil, and then the pastor made a comment. He's like, obviously we know that the crucifix is an important symbol to the Christian faith, but what's really important to recognize is that the crucifix was originally used by the Roman Empire to execute those who went against the state. And I just remember thinking to myself, I was just like, oh my gosh. I was just like, that makes an insane amount of sense, and that connection and that parallel to me was just absolutely phenomenal. And so everyone grabbed armfuls of these crucifixes, and how it would start was the first person would read the name on the crucifix, hold it up in the air, and then everyone would yell presente, present, as if we were recognizing their spirit, that they haven't been forgotten. And then they would lay the crucifix propped up against the curb in the street, so all the cars passing by could see. And this was actually like a car route back to Mexico or the border. And this was like prime time for like evening commute too, so there were just lines and lines and lines of cars, just all backed up, so everyone could see. And so we continued with this process. We'd read the name, hold up the crucifix, and everyone would yell presente. So we did this with all 250 crucifixes, and it was interesting knowing that everyone could see you, and you kind of had this like weird feeling of just like, oh my gosh, what are they thinking? Like, they're staring at me, like, how are they feeling about this? But it was just really neat. Like, you saw some people in cars mouthing presente with you. One man was honking his horn with every presente. You had children leaning out the windows looking at all the crucifixes, just probably wondering, well, I mean, maybe they knew, maybe they didn't, but just wondering, like, what is this? What does this mean? And hopefully having a dialogue with their parents, at some point about what was happening. But so yeah, we did this with all 250 crucifixes, and we ended right at like the checkpoint, more or less, at the border. And then after we finished, well, I might say too, it was just really eerie staring down the street and just seeing 250 crucifixes lined up, and just knowing that it was a small fraction of the people who have been disappeared in the desert because of the policies and the militarization of the border, and that it's just such an amazingly unrecognized humanitarian crisis that's happening. Like, so many people are dying, and it's just absolutely heart-wrenching the more you learn about it. So following this, we had a prayer vigil again, where we passed around a few crucifixes in a circle, and when we got it, we were just supposed to say some thoughts or say some prayers. And so I looked down at mine that I had in my hands, and what I had written on it was no identificado. And I just absolutely lost it. I just started bawling because I can't even imagine the feelings of this family. Like, this is someone's husband or son or brother or dad, and they will never know what happened to them. And it was just really, really heartbreaking that this is all too common of an occurrence or issue surrounding the U.S.-Mexico border. So with that, that's one of my favorite memories. The course is absolutely life-changing, really, really opens your eyes and brings the issue to light in a way that no media or, internet can really do. So I highly recommend it. Catalina is wonderful, and that's my story. Thanks so much.